everybody, it's Gina Bartell and Brigittia Long, your Tampa Bay area realtors, and today we are joined by Ryan from Hello Home Inspections.
Hey, I'm Ryan with Hello Home Inspections, your Tampa Bay home inspection company.
Today we are going to dig into what is a home inspection, when do you need it, why do you need it, what does it cost, and how is it going to be useful for you in the transaction of buying your home?
Stay tuned because you are going to hear from our Tampa Bay inspector what sellers love to hide from our buyers.
After you get under contract, we find you a home, you love it, we write the contract, your offer is accepted. The first thing that we do is set up your home inspection. We usually have about 5 to 15 days to get it done. So Ryan, walk us through what that looks like. We call you, we schedule it, go.
Yeah, so starts with the scheduling. You need to know what kind of inspections you need. You need to know how quickly you need them done. There's lots of inspections that are dependent on your loan, so you need to understand what the lender is going to require and get those done really quickly. If you wait till the last minute, lots of inspections take a few days to process, especially if results have to get sent to a lab or they have to get signed off on by engineers or anything like that. So you gotta know what you need, order them quickly, and then we get it in the system. Usually we can get inspections done within a day or two, which is really great. It's a huge advantage in this market, for sure.
Different loan types call for different home inspections, but for conversation's sake, let's just stick to the most commonly used loan, which is the conventional loan. So we call you, we schedule it, and what happens?
So you're gonna probably just want a regular full home inspection, which is gonna be evaluation of the property from the roof down through the foundation, everything in between. Depending on the type of home, whether it's a new build, whether it's a resale, will change a little bit of how cosmetic we get. So like on new construction, we'll be a little more cosmetic minded because you're working with a builder. But typically on a resale home, you're just looking for things that are going to either cost you money as a homeowner, be a safety concern, and ultimately cause problems with insurance. So in Florida, insurance is insane. The requirements are crazy. And even on the most basic loan, you still usually need to insure the house unless you have a unique circumstance. So in addition to the full home inspection, most times I would say greater than 95% of our customers are getting 4 points in wind mitigations, which we can get into a little bit of what those mean. But that's basically the insurability of the house. And then if you can get any insurance credits.
Nice. And he mentioned new homes. A lot of people don't think that when you purchase a new home from a builder that you necessarily need an inspection. But Brigittia and I always stress the importance of getting one because who you're working with is representing the builder. Who we work with represents you. And Ryan and Hello Home Inspections would be representing you when they look through the house. What are some things you'd find in a new build that I don't think most people would be aware of or even look for?
So with new builds, naturally, it's a production mindset. So they're not just building your house, they're building your house and 200 other people's houses, sometimes in the same street. So you need to understand that, like Gina said, the builder has production in mind. And they have how quickly can we move on to the next house. That being said, there are some great builders, some really good quality. But when we do new construction inspections, typically we're looking for all those little like cosmetic corner cuts that are just, they would have been easier to do right the first time. And you have that one opportunity to get the builder to fix it, usually for free. You'd rather have them do it for free there than you have to pay somebody in a year to come back and do all these touch-up work. We've seen some crazy stuff from wiring issues to missing shingles on brand new roofs, all the way to, we actually came back and did an 11-month warranty for a buyer. And their only comment was it felt really warm over the last year in the house. And I just bought the house, I don't know why. There wasn't any insulation in the attic. The builder completely forgot to schedule the insulation. So a year later, no insulation in the house. And in Florida, that's pretty rough. It's usually things get overlooked, things get, scheduling conflicts. Just little inconsistencies in trades is something to look for. So they usually have their own like in-house QA and inspector, and that'll get promoted along the way. It's like, hey, we look at this house all the time. But like you said, Gina, it's, the interest is in the favor of the owner, which is the builder at that point. So it's great to bring in a third party, and hopefully there's very few things that are wrong. And in case there's something big, we've got it.
Okay, so when do you start that? When do you start that inspection? Do we call you at the very beginning so you know to put that on your schedule, and that do you go by and look periodically? What is your process with new construction?
So there's different, some different companies will have different offerings and phases along the way. Typical is kind of like pre-slab, which is very early before they even pour the foundation. Typically, we don't find that to be very valuable to bring in a third party because I don't want to say there's little that can go wrong, but there is enough stops along the way with county inspectors and code enforcement that kind of see that base level. We come in at pre-drywall, so when the house is completely framed, usually the exterior may already be installed, so the stucco or the siding. The roof is typically already installed at that point, but it's just a framed house. So you walk in, no drywall, usually the drywall sitting in the garage about to be, that's why we call it pre-drywall. And at that point, it is really good just to get that last set of eyes, because once the walls go up, you have no idea what's behind the walls. And we found that that's valuable even just from the standpoint of, I want documentation of how my house looks before it's all covered up. The first step is that pre-drywall, and that's usually a quick hour-long inspection. We do a walk through the house, take a bunch of pictures, give the report to the builder and say, hey, these are some things that concern us. And then the builder has the opportunity to either fix it or prove why they believe it's correct. So we typically don't come back until right before orientation. So that final walkthrough, and that we do a full home inspection, and that's very cosmetic based. We're looking for all those little inconsistencies in texture, things that can be fixed kind of like at the builder's expense at that stage. So really important piece of the puzzle there is making sure that understanding is worked into the contract with the builder. Usually builders have an inspection addendum that says you can bring in a third party. Here are the requirements. There's lots of insurance requirements that we have to present to the builder to say we're legitimate, we're insured, we're not going to go on your roof and fall off your roof, things like that, because they own the property still. So, our obligation for insurance is to them at that time. But if you want anything outside the norm of like just a pre-drywall and a final, you can usually very easily kind of bake that into the contract and say, I'm requesting my third party to come out and just kind of walk the property. And these will be the dates that they'll be on site and things like that.
We've talked new home, now let's talk resales. But first, I want to give us a little vocab key for some keywords that you're going to want to know what they mean. So let's start with wind mitigation. What is wind mitigation?
Absolutely. So shortened usually to wind mit.
Yes.
But wind mitigation, there's even a longer name for it. It's like Florida Uniform Wind Mitigation Verification. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of words in there, and they all basically mean how prone is that structure to wind damage. And so what we're looking for in wind mitigation, it's an official, say, Florida state form, but it was developed by a committee that worked very closely with Citizens, which is the Florida backed insurance company. And so there is a legitimacy to it, and every inspector will use the same form. But what we're looking for is a lot of components related to the roof. So was there a permit pulled for the roof, which indicates a certain level of building standard? It had to have been checked by a building department along the way. So it's important that there's a permit available. That means a lot for a credit. The next thing we're going to check is what kind of underlayment was used. So they have what's called like peel and stick underlayments, synthetic underlayments, basically like a sheet underneath the shingles on top of the roof decking, that in the event a shingle blows off the roof or a tile breaks, any water that gets in doesn't like hit the wood and then go into your attic. It actually gives it a second opportunity to get water off your roof. So there's a credit if you have it. It's not required, but if you have it, it's a credit. So really important to know that. Then we look at nail patterns. So how is the actual roof decking nailed to the structure of the house, the framing, the roof trusses? There's certain shapes of roof structures that will give you a better insurance discount because as the wind hits it, it's less likely to catch an area of the roof. And then aside from that, you're looking at like impact resistant windows and doors. Those will get you credits as well. They're just very expensive. So it's usually not worth upgrading if you don't already have them most of the time.
Please tell me what you do when we ask for a 4-point inspection.
Absolutely. So 4-point, like a really brief summary of what it is. It's a form that outlines the minimal insurable requirements of a home. It tells the insurance company, like, should we write a policy on this home, or is there something that's going to cause immediate damage that we're probably going to get an insurance claim filed for in the near future? So they want to know the overall condition of the property, and The form was developed by citizens, but they're not the only one who uses it. Most insurance companies require it as just kind of like their base document to understand if the home's insurable. So what are the 4 points? It's the condition of the roof, condition of the plumbing, condition of the electrical, and the condition of the HVAC. When it comes to the plumbing, we need to know what material it's made out of. So there was a plumbing material that was introduced a number of years ago across the US called polybutylene. And there are multiple lawsuits against the manufacturer because essentially, long story short, it's known to like blow up and leak inside the walls. So they want to know the types of materials that are used in your plumbing system. They want to know how old your water heater is, what kind of good condition it's in, are the safety devices present. When it comes to electrical, is there any aluminum wiring in the house? Are there known hazards, such as, you probably hear the word like double tap a lot. So we want to make sure none of those hazards exist. In older homes, there will always be minor issues, right? So you have homes that were built with wiring that was ungrounded. So you'll have outlets that read ungrounded. Not necessarily a 4-point issue. As long as the system is as safe as it can be in its current condition, you're usually fine.
Next buzzword is, well, it's not really a word, it's an acronym, WDO. What is it?
Wood destroying organisms. So not just termites, a wood destroying organism can be water.
Really?
Yeah. So you will see wood rot come up on some WDO reports. And it is purely water damage that has caused microbial growth or anything that is like destroying the structure in some way. So typically we think of them just as termites because that's the majority of what it is. And they certainly are a wood destroying organism, but it actually can be many other things. So there's different kinds of termites. They affect your house differently. They come into your house differently. And we need to know about them, specifically because lots of loans require that they either have a clean or a clean WDO, or the home gets treated at some point. So they want to protect the property as any homeowner would. And so a WDO problem is can't be done by a Florida home inspector. It's actually governed under a completely different regulatory board. So not anybody can just say, oh, I see a termite, write it on the form, call it a day. That's why most home inspectors will subcontract that out or have some sort of agreement that allows them to work with a termite company in order to do that. So most of the time, even conventional loans, it's wise to get that WDO report.
One of the things that I love about Hello Home Inspection specifically, and honestly why we kept going back to you guys, was the way that you structure your actual report. Because I do think clients will get this report and they're so overwhelmed by what they see that they think they have to have everything on that list fixed, repaired, credited. So I know we don't have your report with us, but kind of talk through what yours looks like.
Yeah, definitely. So a home inspection report should always be informational. At its core, that's what it is. It's telling the home buyer, like what's wrong with the house. Anytime there is more emotion put into that, is when it starts to be a disservice. So we're very factual about what we find, and that's why you'll see like, hey, why is this the same severity as this? Well, it's like it's not really the same severity, but you need to understand that both are broken and both are wrong, and then what's important to you that you get fixed. However, to your point, there are usually like 3 types of issues that come up. There are things that are like informational, recommendations, very minor. So you're talking about like, hey, there's burnt out light bulbs. Yeah. It's something that's wrong with the home and you're paying for a good home inspection. You should know about everything. But you have to understand that a burnt out light bulb is not as severe as like a recalled electrical panel.
Exactly.
So those types of issues like, hey, we're seeing, erosion around the foundation and we notice you don't have gutters. The home's not breaking because you don't have gutters, but like we recommend you install gutters. Your light bulbs are burnt out. FYI, we found this permit that's still open, recommend getting that closed. Those are like informational things and they show up blue on our reports. Those are more of like, okay, I just need to be aware of these, maybe take some action, but for the most part, pretty minor things. Then the bulk of our reports are going to be, we color them orange and we call them observations, deficiencies, whatever you want to call them. Those are things that are broken and they can be as little as like this outlet doesn't work, to like, hey, your fridge is like not working. I don't know, it's a weird example, but like anything that's broken that a client's going to have to spend money on, you want to know about it in some capacity, even if it's like $100, right? And then the really important things we put in red, and not to scare people, but to be like, These are things that are either going to stop you from getting insurance, which, like we talked about earlier, a really big important thing in Florida. So it's either going to stop you from getting insurance, or it's actively damaging the home. So if you have a roof that is, missing shingles, leaking into the attic, it's both. It's causing damage to the home and it's an insurance issue. You want to know about it. One of the most common things that come up that's not an insurance issue, but we believe is like a really important safety issue, is no smoke detectors in the house. Our intent's like protect the home buyer, ultimately protect like the agents and everybody involved along the way from those things that could come up later.
Last but not least, everyone's gonna wanna know, they see the value in this, but we don't know the cost yet. So can you just give us kind of a overview of what we could expect cost-wise?
Definitely. So lots of different ways to approach pricing when it comes to real estate. Obviously, for the most part, realtors is a percentage-based, like a commission type thing. When you get into appraisal, it's like a flat fee a lot of the time. Lots of services are just based on how much work needs to be done. When it comes to home inspections, it's typically based, and I would say 95% of home inspectors are going to base it on the size of the property, and then any additional features that are going to take a significant amount of either time, expertise, training, additional licenses, things like that.
Pool.
Exactly.
Okay.
A pool is not a overly complex system, but we'll spend at least 30 minutes on it. And so our pricing reflects that extra time.
Sure.
So our typical home inspection, I would say on a 2,000 square foot home is going to be probably in the $500 range. And that's probably middle of the road. We shop around usually like once every 3 months, other local inspectors, just to make sure we're not outrageously high, way behind the curve, something like that.
Yeah.
Typically, we always, we say it as a joke, but it's very, very true. We find $500 worth of issues, usually within the first 15 minutes of every inspection.
15 minutes?
Easy, every time. And so you think about repair costs, like even the smallest thing, changing out a GFCI outlet is going to run you probably $250 because you're going to hire probably an electrician to do it. But we really try to keep our home inspection, our core home inspection product to be as like all encompassing as possible. We don't want you to like pay this fee and then find out, oh wait, I have to pay another like $150 for this thing that's required that like you didn't mention or wasn't included. So our like full home inspection includes like the full home inspection, the wind mitigation, and the 4-point on like 95% of homes.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
What is the weirdest or grossest or craziest thing that you have found in a home inspection?
It's usually sewer related.
Was it a Teenage
gross
Mutant
as
Ninja
it
Turtle?
is. If you are freaked out by cockroaches, lots of times sewer lines will be filled with them, and it's pretty gross to watch on the camera, but it is what it is. We have lots of frogs that are down in the sewer lines that like you're kind of like pushing it along. It's kind of weird when things were installed.
Did you find any dead bodies, any bones?
No dead bodies yet.
Yeah.
I mean, animal bodies in crawl spaces for sure,
well,
but
that's sad.
yeah, but it is what it is. One that just happened recently, like last week, one of my inspectors found a mother-in-law suite detached structure in the backyard where the toilet was connected to a pipe that ran through the yard into a sump pump, which is designed to get rid of like excess wastewater from like the yard and stuff, like pump out water from your yard. But no, anything you flush down the toilet, aka the obvious, is like going into this bucket that gets like mixed up and sucked through a pump and then like sprayed out into the rest of the yard. And so it's like, it takes a little bit of digging to find that stuff because you see like a toilet, you're like, I assume it's done correctly. You see a sump pump, you're like, I assume that's done correctly.
That's gross.
And then you're standing there and you flush the toilet and you watch like stuff come out the other end. It's like,
fertilizer.
Yeah, exactly. Lawn was beautiful at that property.
So were you guys really excited about it? Did you like high five each
other?
Oh,
it was in the group chat.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found this information that Ryan shared with us today helpful, and it better equips you for when you start your home search. Once again, I'm Gina Bartel, your Tampa Bay real estate agent.
And I'm Ryan with Hello Home Inspections. If you're looking to get that home that Gina sells you inspected, we are the ones to come to. Use the discount code GinaBeSellin for 10% off your inspection when you book online or mention it on the phone when you give us a call.